Hi, welcome back to the Backyard Woodshop. I'm Tom Ryder. Today I want to show you guys how to make a Gothic finial that'll sit on top of a flat cap and some decorative trim to go underneath it to really dress up a 4x4 post. I did this a few weeks ago for a client. Up here in the corner I'm going to put what the original looked like, and then just below it here I'll show you what the end result was for me. She's going to paint them. But just to show you guys how to make it today, if you're interested, stick around. I'll show you how. So to lay out your finial, you're just going to need your couple dimensions. Whatever your size is going to be, you need to know the width and the length of your block. For us, I'm duplicating one, so this is going to be 2 3/8 square block, and it's 3 3/4 inches tall. You can make a pattern or you can just do a one-off. You just need to know how much of an arch you want. Once you determine that, since I'm duplicating one, it made it a little bit easier for me to figure that out. But whatever you want it to be, you can lay out and do radiuses and all that with a compass, or you can just take and pick a couple dimensions on your ruler, lay them on the center spot of your point, and on the bottom where you want the arch to stop, and then you'll flex your ruler and draw it. And so for me, to duplicate this, I'm going to start at 3 inches on a flexible ruler and stop it at 6 3/8. And so if you're going to make a bunch of them, like I was going to make a few, you just go ahead and pre-cut all your blocks, and then you do that same layout here, and then you just mark your pattern. And then from then on, anytime I want to make one of these finials of this size, I can just lay it in between on the block, know that my center mark is there. I could always mark that, and then I just take a pen or a pencil, draw it in on each side, and then I'm going to flip it, do the same exact thing of making sure, and then draw that. And if you do that, then you'll end up with your marks on each side of the block. I went ahead and did all 4 sides. You really only need 2 sides because when you cut it out on the bandsaw, you're going to cut it one way and then you're going to flip it and cut it again. And I'll show you how that works. So we've got our bandsaw set up. You just want your guides just above the block. That way you get the most support for your blade. It'll also help with making the cut as straight as possible. Once you make your cuts on each side of this, each side here, we're going to tape it and then flip it 90 degrees and make 2 more cuts, and then that'll reveal our finial. So let's get started. So now you've got your 2 pieces cut. Now see, if I don't put these back on, I can't see, I lose my lines, and this becomes a really unsafe move. So we're going to put our 2 pieces back on. It's really smart to make sure that you put them on correctly too. And they don't have to be perfect, but sure does help that they're on right. And so once you get them kind of set, you're just going to take a couple pieces of tape. I know this is going to make the video a little bit longer, but I'll speed this part up for you. We're just going to bond it out. I just want to make sure that everything's where it's supposed to be. Try to not stretch your lines too much, but I know it's kind of hard to do. And if you don't think you can see lines, you can always redraw them off the tape if you want. But now that I've got that back on, this is our original cut. Now I can flip it 90 degrees and make the next set of cuts. Once that's done, you'll end up with a rough cut Gothic finial, and you'll finish this out by sanding. You can see that it's not perfect, but I left the lines everywhere, which they're on here, but now I can just kind of by eye just sand this to a nice consistent look. Now we've got to just sand these down. Basically, remember those lines I drew? I'm just going to keep sloping this down until I hit that. This one I kind of missed my line a little bit. I went a little wide, but that's okay. We just keep shaving this down until we hit that. We're still outside our lines, so we'll just sand down till I like it. Just like that, we've got a finial. Now this is paint grade, so you really don't have to, you know, do anything spectacular here. You can sand it as smooth as you want. If you're doing like fine woodworking there, then you can sand it down, but this is good enough for paint. This is like 50 grit, and I'm just roughing it down, and I think for outside use this will be fine. So I needed to duplicate this piece of trim, and the first thing you got to do is get the dimensions of it. So this stuff is a 1/2 inch thick by 1 inch tall. So basically, just think of your trim as in a square form at first, and then starts trying to figure out the scoop design. This is a 1/2 inch cove bit, and that's what I've got in here. And then you just move the fence in or out to get the proper reveal, and then the bit up and down to get the height. And so I've got that set, and so we're just going to give it a try here, if I plug it in. And that's how we make the molding. So now the next step we got to do is take our trim pieces and just cut them down to small, short 4-inch long, just a hair over 4-inch long, to wrap around the post. I've already got my stops set up. I did a couple little trials. So I've got it set so I can just put the outside 45, butt it up against there. I'm going to take my, this is just a copy thing to keep my hands away. It's just a little arch piece, and then we just go. And on small pieces like this, you definitely want to let the blade stop, because if you lift it up while the teeth are still going, you could have a kickback because you're trapping it in between the stop and the blade, but also you'll tear up your nice edge. And so once you cut some of these, you're going to have it to where it'll just make a nice tight 45 like so, and we'll do it. So obviously this one here is not oriented the right way, so what I do is I just flip it over, pin it down to the fence, make that cut, bring it over here, stop it again, let it come down till it stops, and then you end up with perfect duplicate pieces every time. How to make this cap that's going to go on top of the 4x4 post first. This is pretty simple to do. You can do it a couple ways. I'm using a tenoning jig here to hold it at 15 degrees to a 90-degree setting on my blade. You can also do it differently and just use your fence You can make your own kind of rig to hold this to keep your fingers a little safer. Or you can just slide the fence over and run this through with your blade at 15 degrees and cut it. And now for what I'm doing, this blade is set at 1.5 inches tall. So let me show you how this works. It's pretty simple, and the nice thing is my hands are way far away from the blade. And the other thing is this thing is completely repeatable. As long as I don't change anything here, I can make them all day long. There we go. I've got another cap. We've got our top cap sitting here. The trim pieces are attached to the bottom of the cap. You should be able just to drop this right on your 4x4 post. And then we've got our finial that we want to drop on. Now, one of the things you want to pay attention to is grain direction between these two pieces. You want to make sure they're both going the same way so that you don't have any wood movement fighting each other. It's not going to be a lot, but sitting outside it's going to be in the extreme, and so you may get some of that wood movement. Less likely to split if you have them all going the same way. So you can drive brad nails through this any way you want to attach the top. I find it easier to drill holes through the bottom, through here and screws in through the bottom, so that you can pull this cap back off, change out the finial really easy if something happens to it. But then plus it just really makes this a solid connection. We've got our finial attached. I just done the 2 screws through, and it's all set. So basically you just want to make sure that your points are pretty much lined up. That way it looks really pleasing to the eye. But you can see it kind of, you know, it's got a nice look to it. You got your trim pieces, and you could use any type of trim you want. I was matching trim for the lady, but so basically you just slide on your finial and you're all set. I went ahead and also put in our screw holes, one on each side here. Not all 4, just 2 spots will do it. You could probably do 1 and that'd be all right. And what that lets you do as a little side bonus is, let's say you're going to paint this white point finial and the rest of this cap black along with the trim. Easy peasy. You make it really look clean by undoing the screws and taking the point and painting it separate. The other thing that pulling this cap away does is let you spray paint the whole thing if you want. You could either leave it as an assembly like this or separate it and do all that, but being able to take the cap off, you get to paint the underside. That way it helps protect it even more. Paint the top of your fence post. That way you have less moisture to absorb, and then you just, when you're done, you drop it on, shoot your screws in. That one's finished. If you're going to be making like, you know, 50 of these, I would definitely set up some drilling jigs and different things so that you can make everything repeatable. That way you don't have to worry about this finial having to fit with this cap. Any of them could fit with any cap. If I was to make a suggestion, I didn't think about it until I was already cut this, but I would go ahead and if I was making a bunch of these, I would drill the holes for the screws before I even cut the finial out. That way everything's on square stock and easy to line up. So that's going to do it for this one. I hope you got something out of this. If you did, hit that like button, and if I've earned it, hit that subscribe button. And until next time, I see you in the backyard.